Have you ever stopped to think about how we actually perceive the future? In this explainer, we're taking a quiet, measured look at a deeply philosophical meditation on exactly that. We're exploring the concept of hope, but through a completely different lens. You see, this isn't about motivational posters or relentless positivity. Instead, we're examining hope not as some fleeting emotion, but as a structural necessity for human existence. We're going to ask a very simple yet totally profound question. Why does feeling that tomorrow exists actually matter?
Society puts this exhausting expectation on us. On one side, we have the conventional view, hope as optimism. This is that heavy pressure to believe that the future will absolutely positively be better. But as our source material points out, carrying that around can be incredibly draining. On the other side, though, we have a quieter, much more grounded reality, which is hope as connection. This is just the subtle feeling that the future hasn't completely closed yet. It's not a guarantee of a perfect tomorrow, it's simply the comforting sense that we can still touch the world tomorrow. It's about keeping a pathway open rather than predicting a definitive victory.
So let's zoom in on our daily lives for a second and look at what we mean by these small futures and everyday connections. Think about an incredibly simple phrase like, let's talk again. We say it all the time, right? But the crucial takeaway here is that this isn't just a scheduled plan or a logistical calendar invite. It's actually a cognitive connection point. By just uttering those words, we're proving to ourselves and to each other that the future remains open. We're essentially laying down a tiny little bridge to tomorrow.
And that brilliantly illustrates another angle of this exact same concept. We can think about it next week. Now, society loves to label this as just procrastination. But viewed through the lens of our source material, pushing a thought to next week is actually a vital coping mechanism. It's a way to stop the present moment from completely closing in on us. It gives us necessary breathing room, a sort of buffer, by confirming that a next week actually exists out there to hold our thoughts.
Then there's the classic, see you tomorrow. It's universally understood. Now, obviously, it doesn't guarantee a flawless reunion. Traffic happens, plans change, but the words themselves leave the necessary room for reconnection. They're the subtle acknowledgement that today just isn't the end of the story. These small phrases, they don't pull us forward with immense, overwhelming force. They just gently incline us toward the future.
Which brings us to the actual structure of hope. Let's look at this as a cognitive architecture. It kind of works in this exact mechanical sequence. Step 1 is our present. Step 2 requires an unclosed future. Because think about it. If the future is completely determined, we totally lose the need to update ourselves. And if it's completely lost, we lose our direction. Step 3 is that possibility of reconnection, that tiny bridge we were just talking about. And that naturally leads to step 4, the renewal of today. Having an unclosed future creates the necessary direction for us to renew ourselves right now. We don't act today because tomorrow is a sure thing. We act today because tomorrow is still a possibility. And this brings us to a really beautiful definition from the text, recursive hope. It's not the act of forcing yourself to believe things will miraculously get better. It's simply the structure where making a small contact today leaves open the possibility of contact tomorrow. And that mere possibility of tomorrow becomes the exact reason we don't shut down today. It's this gentle, repeating loop. We touch the world a little today, we might touch it again tomorrow, and so today remains open. It's a quiet inclination that keeps us moving forward without breaking under the pressure of having to be relentlessly optimistic.
But what happens when that structure gets squeezed? Let's look at the pressure of prediction and the closed future.
We face these intense deterministic pressures every single day. The hyper-precision of AI, big data, simulations, and risk management, it's incredible technology for sure, but it creates a very specific kind of anxiety. We are constantly being told things like, your future will look exactly like this, or this industry is destined for this outcome, or even this person will never change. It creates this illusion that the future is already fully decided. And remember our structure from earlier, when the future feels completely determined and locked in, that cognitive architecture of hope starts to collapse.
So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is finding balance. Prediction is undeniably useful. We obviously need data. But when prediction becomes a language that strictly closes the future, when it strips away all ambiguity and surprise, people lose that vital sense that they can still connect with tomorrow. The source material warns us not to let the utility of modern forecasting completely steal the fundamental human feeling that the future remains updatable.
How does this apply on a larger scale? Let's look at systems that survive, moving from the individual level all the way to civilization.
Think about these phrases as organizational lifelines. We can try again, we can revise it, we can begin again. Highly efficient but completely rigid systems, the ones that demand perfection and leave zero room for error,
They eventually break. They shatter when things go wrong. But systems that retain this sense of a next time, this recursive hope baked right into their culture, those are the ones that actually survive and recover from failure. They don't view a setback as an endpoint, but just as part of a continuing, unclosed process.
Because ultimately, future possibility is not about calculating your exact probability of success. It's simply about the remaining capacity to change phase toward the future. Resilience, survival, and hope itself are really just about maintaining the capacity to try again. It's having that cognitive and structural breathing room that allows for adaptation. It is definitely not a guarantee of victory. It's the preservation of possibility.
Which leaves us with this final, rather spacious question to meditate on as we wrap up this explainer. What truly supports us as we navigate our lives? Is it having absolute, ironclad certainty about what the future holds? Or is it perhaps simply the quiet, gentle sense that the future hasn't yet closed? Feeling that tomorrow exists doesn't mean everything is guaranteed to be perfect. It just means that we might still be able to touch the world again. Take a moment to sit with that thought in your own life.